Have you ever had someone say, "You need to get out more," as if staying home is some kind of failure? Maybe you felt that quiet pressure from well-meaning family, friends, or even society, that if you're not constantly socializing, going out, or keeping busy with group activities, you're somehow missing out. But deep down, you know that home is where you feel most like yourself. You're not avoiding the world, you're choosing peace, and that's not only okay, it's powerful. There's a quiet strength in women who prefer to stay home, a kind of wisdom that doesn't need to shout or prove anything. If you're someone who cherishes your space, your routines, and your inner world, then this video is for you, because today we're going to talk about 5 truths that are rarely said out loud. Truths about older women who feel most alive in the comfort of their own home. And no, this isn't about being antisocial, boring, or giving up. Quite the opposite. It's about recognizing that your choices, especially in this season of life, are valid, meaningful, and often misunderstood by others. Let's take a closer look, starting with something many of us have felt but rarely talk about: the pressure to be social. From the time we're young, we're taught to be outgoing, to mingle, to say yes to every invitation, to show up even when we're tired. For many women, especially those now in their 60s or older, that pressure hasn't stopped. It just changes form. It sounds like, "You should come to more church events," or "Why don't you join a travel group?" It comes with that look, you know, the one, like staying home means you've lost your spark. But what if you haven't lost anything? What if you've actually found something that others are too distracted to see? That quiet, calm sense of self that comes when the noise fades. The truth is, many women who stay home aren't avoiding connection. They're just choosing a different kind of connection, one that starts within. You don't need to fill every hour with activity to be living a full life. Sometimes stepping back from the busyness of the world allows you to hear your own thoughts again, to breathe, to reflect, to take care of yourself, not in a selfish way, but in a nourishing, grounded way. And yes, that might mean saying no to something. It might mean missing a luncheon or skipping a group outing. But the peace that comes from that decision, it's priceless. Now, here's another truth, and it may sting a bit because it's so familiar. Older women who prefer to stay home are often labeled unfairly lazy, antisocial, set in their ways, and that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, many women who enjoy the stillness of home are the opposite of lazy. They're deeply focused, highly capable, and often more productive than they ever were during their younger, busier years. You might not be running around town anymore, but you're keeping your home in order, managing your routines, and taking care of things with the kind of quiet efficiency that only life experience can teach. You wake up with purpose. You move through your day with intention. You may not be shouting your achievements from the rooftops, but that doesn't make them any less real. Let's not forget how exhausting constant social interaction can be. For some women, being around too many people too often doesn't energize them, it drains them. And that's not a flaw, that's just how some of us are wired. You're not broken because you prefer silence to small talk. You're discerning, you're wise enough to know which relationships feed your soul and which ones leave you feeling empty. There's something powerful about choosing quality over quantity, especially when it comes to people. Having a few close friends who truly understand you, that's worth more than a dozen acquaintances you see just to be polite. And sometimes your most important connection isn't even with another person. That brings us to something beautiful that often gets overlooked: the deep, emotional bond many women have with their pets. Maybe it's the little dog who follows you from room to room, or the cat who curls up next to you every evening. These relationships aren't just about companionship, they're emotional anchors. They offer comfort without judgment, presence without pressure. You don't need to explain yourself to your dog. You don't need to pretend for your cat. They love you just as you are, whether you're dressed up and lively or in your robe, sipping tea and listening to the radio. And let's be honest, that kind of unconditional presence can feel more real than many human interactions. These bonds aren't shallow or sentimental, they're meaningful, they bring structure to your day, they remind you to care, to nurture, to be present. And when you're feeling low, when the world feels too loud or too distant, they're there, right by your side. It's no wonder so many older women find joy and emotional connection through their pets. It's not a sign of loneliness, it's a sign of emotional wisdom. And while we're on the subject of wisdom, let's talk about something that runs even deeper: your passions. Because one thing many home-centered women have in common is their fierce loyalty to what they love. Whether it's gardening, baking, quilting, reading, writing, or simply making a cup of coffee exactly the way you like it, there's a kind of reverence in the way you return to what brings you peace. You're not chasing trends anymore. You're not doing something just because everyone else is. You've learned what brings you joy, and you keep it close. And that kind of consistency, that sense of knowing what lights you up, it's a gift. It helps you weather the hard days. It brings a rhythm to your life. It connects you to your identity in a world that sometimes tries to define you by your age. Some people might see staying home as a retreat, but for many women, it's not about retreating, it's about refining, choosing what matters, honoring what feels right, tuning out the noise and tuning into your own voice. And the more you do that, the more you discover that home isn't just a place, it's a reflection of who you are, a mirror of your values, your peace, your passion, and your strength. There's still more to explore, because the truth about women who love being at home runs deeper than most people realize. So let's keep going. And here's something many won't say out loud, but you've probably felt it. There's a certain freedom in staying home. Not the kind of freedom that's loud or rebellious, but the kind that whispers. You don't have to follow the crowd anymore. That's a powerful place to be. When you no longer feel pressured to perform for others, when you don't need to chase approval or explain your choices. You've earned this stage of life. It's not about proving anything to anyone. It's about finally being at peace with yourself. There's a quiet confidence that grows in women who have embraced this lifestyle. They're no longer pulled in every direction. They're not frantically saying yes to every request. Instead, they've learned to listen to what they need. Rest, space, time to reflect, time to just be. It might look like stepping away from certain social circles, skipping events, or spending entire weekends tending the garden, knitting a blanket, or simply sitting by the window watching the rain. To some, that may seem uneventful, but to you, it's deeply fulfilling. And the deeper truth behind all this: women who prefer to stay home often possess an incredibly rich inner world, while others may seek excitement or validation in the external world, traveling constantly, posting updates online, chasing the next big thing. These women are building something quietly powerful on the inside. They reflect, they create, they think deeply, they remember, they imagine. And none of it needs to be seen to be meaningful. That quiet moment when you write a thought in your journal, that time you lost track of the afternoon while reading a novel you love, or when you spent an hour just watering your plants and feeling connected to something steady. That's not time wasted. That's life lived with awareness. You're not just keeping busy, you're tending to your soul. You've learned that your mind is a garden, and what you plant there matters. You don't need to be everywhere, do everything, or surround yourself with people all the time to feel alive. In fact, many of your most important realizations, the turning points, the clarity, the growth, have likely come during your quiet moments, when it's just you, the stillness, and whatever is on your heart. People may not always understand that. They might say, "Aren't you lonely?" or "Don't you want to get out and see more?" But loneliness isn't always about being alone, it's about feeling disconnected. And many women who spend time at home feel more connected than ever to themselves, to their past, to what matters most. And let's be honest, not all relationships feed us. Some drain us. Not all environments bring peace. Some bring stress. And when you've lived long enough, you start to know the difference. You stop pushing yourself into situations that don't feel right. You stop trying to make everyone else comfortable while ignoring your own needs. That kind of self-respect comes with time. And it's one of the most beautiful things about growing older. You start choosing with intention who you spend time with, what you give your energy to, how you spend your mornings, where you go, and more importantly, and when you realize that staying home brings you more peace than going out ever did, you no longer feel guilty about it, you feel grateful. There's nothing small about choosing a quiet life. It takes courage, it takes clarity, it takes knowing yourself in a world that's always telling you to be something else. Louder, busier, flashier, more involved. But you've been there, you've done the hustle, you filled your calendar, raised your kids, supported your family, showed up when others needed you. You've done the work. Now it's your time, and it's perfectly okay if your version of joy looks different than someone else's. Some days, joy might look like a favorite meal cooked just the way you like it, without having to share the kitchen, or watching an old movie that brings back memories while wrapped in your softest blanket. It might be lighting a candle and letting the scent fill the room, or sitting with your thoughts, praying, or just breathing in the quiet. These aren't little things, they're sacred moments, and they matter. You may not talk about it often, but you've probably noticed how your values have shifted over time. The things that used to seem urgent, they just aren't anymore. You don't need the latest phone, the trendiest clothes, or the busiest schedule. What you crave is something more lasting. Peace, authenticity, connection that doesn't feel forced, and staying home gives you room to pursue exactly that. Sometimes, in this world, stillness is mistaken for stagnation, but they're not the same. Stagnation is when nothing moves, because stillness is when everything moves but inward. That's where wisdom grows. That's where you reconnect with your younger self, and realize she's still in there, softer now perhaps, but wiser too. And you know what's interesting? The more you settle into this way of being, the more you find joy in the little things others often miss. A bird outside your window, the way the light changes throughout the day, the rhythm of your routines, the comfort of knowing exactly where everything is in your home, not because it's perfect, but because it reflects you. This life you've created, it may be quiet to the outside world, but it's full of meaning, full of presence, full of grace, and while others may rush around chasing more, you've come to appreciate enough space, enough time, enough of what actually matters. You're not interested in filling every moment, just the ones that count, and staying home allows you to do that, to live deliberately, to move with intention, to surround yourself with what soothes rather than what stresses. Because the truth is, this isn't about being anti-anything. It's not anti-social, it's not anti-fun, it's not anti-life, it's pro-self, pro-peace, pro-purpose. And when you've reached a point in life where those things matter more than appearances, you've stepped into a kind of freedom that's hard to describe, but easy to feel. You know you don't have to explain yourself anymore, not to anyone. You don't owe the world your presence at every gathering. You don't need to make excuses for choosing rest over noise. You've earned this freedom with every year, every lesson, every step of your journey, and you're finally living in a way that honors that. So when someone asks, why don't you go out more, or don't you get bored staying home all the time? Smile. You don't need to convince them. You already know the truth is, staying home isn't about shutting the world out. It's about letting yourself in. Sometimes we think strength has to be loud, that it shows up in big speeches, or bold moves, or grand gestures, but real strength, especially in this stage of life, often whispers. It whispers in the way you create a home that feels safe, in the way you know when to say no, in the way you wake up each day and move through your life gently, steadily, with grace. And that strength is exactly what shines through older women who have chosen, perhaps finally, to honor what feels right instead of what looks right. There's something deeply rooted about this kind of life. It's not chasing, it's not competing, it's not performing, it's settled, it's seasoned, it's self-aware. And while others may still be seeking that feeling of enough, you found it in the quiet corners of your life, in the cup of tea you enjoy alone, in the book you return to every winter, in the way your home has slowly become your sanctuary, not just your shelter. What often goes unnoticed is just how much emotional intelligence it takes to live this way, to know when your energy needs protecting, to recognize when a relationship is giving, or taking too much. To trust yourself without needing a committee of opinion. That's not giving up, that's growing up. And it takes years to get there. So many older women finally give themselves permission to choose solitude without shame. Not because they've withdrawn from life, but because they've finally figured out which parts of life truly matter. They're not filling their calendars to impress anyone. They're filling their time with what aligns with their spirit, whether it's prayer, art, music, reflection, or simple routines that feel sacred. These aren't just hobbies. They're acts of self-preservation, of healing, of staying in touch with what makes you you. This is also the stage where the noise of the outside world gets easier to turn down. The opinions, the comparisons, the expectations, you realize they're just that noise. And when you get quiet enough, you can actually hear yourself again. What you want, what you need, what you've been craving, but never felt allowed to ask for. And when that happens, life doesn't get smaller, it gets deep. You begin to cherish your space, not because it's fancy or flawless, but because it holds your history. The couch you've had for decades, the photos on the wall, the smell of something familiar cooking in the kitchen. These aren't just things. They're layers of memory, comfort, belonging. They tell the story of a woman who's lived, who's loved, who's lost, who's learned, and who is still here, still choosing, still growing. That sense of rootedness, of not needing to rush anymore, it's rare, it's beautiful, and it deserves to be respected, not questioned. Now, that doesn't mean every day is easy. There are moments of doubt, days when the silence feels a little too loud, times when the world outside feels far away, and maybe you wonder if you've become invisible. That's normal, that's human. But even in those moments, something in you knows you are still deeply connected to yourself, to your past, to the things that matter most. And those moments of quiet don't have to be lonely. In fact, some of the most powerful conversations you'll ever have are the ones you have with yourself, when you're honest, when you listen, when you allow space for what's been buried under years of responsibility, pressure, and noise. You've lived a lot of life, you've played a lot of roles, and now, maybe for the first time, you get to just be. Not the caregiver, not the fixer, not the hostess, not the go-to person for everyone else's problems. Just you, in your own rhythm, on your own terms. That's not small, that's sacred. And if no one else has told you lately, let me say it clearly, you don't need to apologize for how you live. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why you find joy in your routines, comfort in your quiet, purpose in your private passions. You don't need to change just because someone else doesn't understand. Because here's the truth, the world needs all kinds of women, the loud ones, the adventurous ones, the endlessly busy ones. But it also needs the grounded ones, the calm ones, the women who hold space for themselves and others without demanding attention. The women who remind us that home is not just a location, it's a way of living. And if that's you, if you're the kind of woman who thrives in the stillness, who finds power in being present with herself, who values depth over display, then know this, you're not alone and you're not missing out. You're living fully in a way that is honest, intentional, and whole. You've earned the right to create a life that nurtures you, to wake up and decide how your day will unfold, to turn inward when the world outside doesn't make sense, to tend to your needs without guilt, to live simply but not shallowly. And maybe, just maybe, in doing that, you're inspiring someone else, a daughter, a granddaughter, a neighbor, or even a stranger watching this video, to do the same, to stop chasing and start choosing, to find peace in their own pace, to trust that sometimes the best life isn't the one that's loudest, it's the one that's most aligned. So if this message speaks to you, take a deep breath and let it settle in. You're doing just fine. You're not behind. You're not strange. You're not stuck. You're simply tuned in to what matters. And that is a beautiful place to be. Now, if any part of this video made you feel seen, I'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you always preferred a quieter lifestyle, or has it grown with you over time? What does home mean to you now? Your voice matters, not just to me, but to others in this community who may be feeling the same way and waiting for someone like you to speak up. And if you'd like to see more content that honors your pace, your values, and your journey, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We're building a space for thoughtful, empowering conversations for women just like you, women who know that age is not the end of anything, but the beginning of everything real. Thank you for spending this time with me. However you choose to live your days, may they be full of meaning, full of light, and full of the quiet joy that comes from living in a way that's true to you. Here's to living your best life at any age, and finding the beauty in staying home.